We were told early in the COVID-19 outbreak that it did not affect young people. And one of our own, a friend of the show, Baton Rouge native Kaylee Hartung, who just got relocated from New York City to Los Angeles by her employer, ABC News, as a correspondent out there. She was the first to cover the outbreak in the United States as it touched first in the state of Washington and Seattle. ABC sent her from her Los Angeles residence up the northwest to the state of Washington, and then a couple of days later, Kaylee was tested positive for the coronavirus. You saw her on Good Morning America. You've seen her all over ABC, but since then she's been quarantined and trying to get healthy and checking in with us here this morning on OTB. Good morning, old friend. How you doing?
Hey, good morning, Jordy. I'm doing well. I really am. Feel like I'm feeling just fine now. I think I'm past the physical symptoms. I think the mental component of dealing with all of this has been just as challenging, if not more challenging, than the physical part of it.
Well, and that's what I wanted to touch on, Kaylee, is that although like you can tell yourself in your head constantly, the math is on my side, et cetera, I'm young, I have this, I have that. There's still, you hear the horror stories, right? And you still know that this is a virus that our science hasn't quite caught up with. So once you get that diagnosis, how did you kind of try to keep yourself from spiraling down mentally?
I stood outside of the nursing home in Washington State where now more than 40 people have died. I watched people come out of that nursing home on stretchers, be put into an ambulance, taken to the hospital, and then I would hear the death toll rise. I very much firsthand have seen how deadly this virus can be. And so for me to have the phone ring and have a doctor on the other end of the line say, your test results are back and you've tested positive for COVID-19, I still haven't wrapped my mind around that. And the crazy thing for me was that by the time I got the call about my test results, I was already feeling so much better. So to feel well, to not feel like your body's shutting down on you, to know that your condition's already been improving and still get that phone call, yeah, it's just really hard to wrap your mind around. But all that being said, I'd also had plenty of conversations with medical experts long before I ever even felt ill, recognizing that if I were to get this virus, because let me tell you, this is a conversation I had with ABC's medical expert before I got to Seattle. Like when I was getting sent to Seattle, I called her and said, how concerned do I need to be? How do I best protect myself? We went in knowing that there was a risk, but I knew that being young and being healthy and not having any underlying conditions, if there was a scenario in which I did happen to contract this virus, I would be okay. And I had that faith, but I also had, just the knowledge of the virus. One thing that was particularly difficult was calling my family back in Baton Rouge and saying, I have these results. I'm on the other side of the country. And my parents and my grandmother not fully understanding as much as I did about the virus at the time and the fear that they had. And I very quickly had to educate them to say, I'm fine. I'm going to be fine. The biggest threat I am right now to anyone is, someone else with an underlying condition that I passed by on the street. I am going to be okay. You guys don't need to be worried about me, and you certainly don't need to get on an airplane and come to LA because my mom, believe you me, certainly wanted to. And
Shout out Julie.
Yeah, exactly. But I had to explain to them that, the best thing they could do is let me get through this by myself in isolation in Los Angeles.
What has that been like?
Yeah, because you're a workaholic, Kaylee. What's it been like having to just...
And a social butterfly. What's that been like?
Stay in place.
I feel really fortunate. This is going to sound so cheesy, but I have not felt lonely in isolation. And I have legitimately been alone for 13 days now.
Wow.
Like, I've never spent so much time with myself and my own thoughts. But I didn't anticipate the reaction I would get by sharing my story on Good Morning America. It was really important for me to share it because I was fortunate enough to get tested, and we know how difficult it is to get tested right now. People with mild symptoms like mine are being told you can't get tested. The first person I spoke to on the phone from LA County Public Health, who's in charge of testing in the state of California, she said, I can just tell from talking to you, you don't sound sick enough. Your symptoms aren't bad enough for you to get tested. I can just tell by talking to you. What? I mean, I was dismissed that easily. And yet I turned out to have the virus. So it was so difficult to get tested, and it was certainly a process. And so as soon as I was fortunate enough to get one of those tests, I said, whatever I learned from this, I want to be able to share with people. And I'm lucky enough to have a platform to be able to do that. So I want to be transparent about whatever happens, and I want to help anybody else who's going through the same thing that I am understand maybe a little bit better, have a reality check about how they're feeling and what it means. But I did not anticipate the reaction I would get by sharing my story. I was overwhelmed on social media with people asking me very specific questions, really just highlighting the fact that people have so many questions and don't know where to turn for answers.
Yep.
So I really sort of prioritized like those sorts of communications with strangers who I felt like I could connect with and shed some light on my experience, hoping that it connects some dots for them. But what I really didn't anticipate were how many people would reach out to me, friends of mine, former colleagues of mine, people I've crossed paths with in life at one point or another who were worried about me. And that was so not what I intended in sharing my story. But I've felt the most amazing and beautiful outpouring of love and support, and that's really helped me through this time. That's for sure.
Take me to this experience. What were the symptoms? What's the feeling? And what's been, I guess, on the backside after learning that you've had it, what's the feeling around it?
Yeah. So it really started, thinking back on it, now Wednesday, almost 2 weeks ago. So I was 4 days home from Seattle, and I woke up with like a sore neck and a sore back. And I made the excuse. I was moving into my apartment in LA, and had been staying in a corporate apartment, probably not the most comfortable bed I've slept in, and so I just kind of made the excuse that I must have just slept wrong. And I was tired, and I made the excuse, I've been working so much. I really need to rest and reset. And then that night, my nose started running, and made the next excuse that it was allergies, and it must not be anything serious. It's, allergy season right now, right? Then the following morning, I woke up, and that feeling, we've all had it, I think, when you have the flu, and the second you wake up, you just know something's wrong.
Yeah, I hate it. It's the worst.
Right? Like it's in the back of your throat, and it's all over your body, and you just like, no, this is not going to be a good day. So I woke up with that undeniable feeling that morning, and then realized, oh man, I've got a headache like right between my eyes, like a very pointed headache, and this does not feel good. I just felt this general fog and fatigue. Was really congested. Those body aches continued, and more than anything, it was pain in my lower back that seemed more uncharacteristic than anything. It was like I was a wind-up doll, and somebody had taken a key and just turned it in my lower back and just kept tightening it and kept tightening it. And I certainly hadn't done any physical activity that would warrant a sore back. It wasn't like I'd been lifting anything heavy. It wasn't, I hadn't exerted myself in any way. It was just this incredible like tightness and soreness and pain in my lower back. And then, at that point, like I didn't get out of bed, and then at some point said, "There's a problem here. I need to make some phone calls. I need to tell ABC News that I don't feel well." And knowing where I'd been, of course, everything was on heightened alert in my world. But then I got the chills, and I laid back down in bed, and I think it was like 2 or 3 hours later, I woke up and I was in a full sweat. Oh. So at some point I had a fever spike. I don't even know how high it got, but I would guess it wasn't much more than a low-grade fever. Anyway, all that being said, the symptoms that one day, that was as bad as it all got, kind of feeling all those things at once. And I spent that late afternoon, evening, hours on the phone trying to figure out how to get tested, running into roadblocks, getting frustrated in the process, and then finally hear someone say, on a callback, mind you, like after I've already been told by my healthcare provider that they won't test me because my symptoms aren't serious enough, I get a call back that says, actually, upon review of your case, because of where you've been, you should be tested. And so then the conversation transitioned to, where do I get tested? I talked to somebody at a hospital here in LA who says, well, if you come right now, it'll be a 5-hour wait. And it's like, well, that sounds like
miserable,
an even worse situation.
So come wait among people as a potential carrier for 5 hours. I'm like,
absolutely not. So they say, this guy was the nicest guy I talked to for sure in this process. He was like, but you know what? If you come tomorrow at 6 a.m., there's not going to be anybody here and you'll get in really quickly. I was like, well, that is the best tip you give me. Thank you so much. So then I'm dead tired, get into bed, set my alarm. I don't know that I've ever been more angry for my alarm to go off. And God knows I've had to wake up at strange times, as you guys do, for our job, to be on air at early hours. But my alarm went off at like 5:30 the next morning, and I had zero interest in getting out of bed. But also, I remember now laying there in bed and thinking, I'm about to go to the emergency room, and I don't feel that bad.
Yeah,
like,
that's weird.
Is that really where I need to go? Like, is this necessary? And I got myself out of bed and started getting ready to go and continued to sort of struggle with that. But at that point, the train was too far down the track. Like, I was committed to going and getting a test. And now, of course, I'm so glad I did, but I did struggle with that for a minute. I was like, I don't feel that bad. And any other point in my life, the lingering symptoms I felt after that one day, the headache, the congestion, the body ache, I would have just pushed through. Absolutely. Had that been any other day in my life, I would have just pushed through and worked or done whatever I needed to do, because they were manageable symptoms. They didn't feel good, but I would have felt like I could have handled it.
Yeah.
So anyway, I get to the hospital. The guy was right. There was really very few people there. And then I have to go through the whole process again of essentially convincing these people to test me.
That is amazing.
Despite the fact my healthcare provider said they would test me, despite the fact I talked to somebody the night before on the phone at that hospital saying they would test me. I get there, I'm telling them my symptoms, and mind you, the second I walk through the door, ask for a mask and take that precaution.
Yeah.
And then I give them my symptoms. This lady's looking at me very incredulously. And then she says, okay, well, go wait outside and we'll let you know if we're going to test you. And I was like, wait, what? Like, guys, I'm talking like on the street corner. They're like, go wait outside. It's cold and raining. Thank goodness I was in LA. Yeah, thank goodness I was in LA as opposed to New York or anywhere else when it came to the weather. But still, it was chilly for an LA morning, and it was pouring down rain. And I went and stood under this overhang and just was like, what am I doing here? What is this real life? And an hour later, they called my name and invited me back indoors and put me in my own room.
Sounds like you were at the DMV.
Proceeded to test me. It was just surreal. And there was an isolation tent that was like just getting set up at the hospital as I was there. Yeah, that was part of what was so strange about all of this for me. In a lot of ways, I was the first to experience things as they were happening. Not literally the first person, but, on the front end of things. And for a lot of people who I know, I was the first person who they know to get
definitely
diagnosed with this virus. And the thing is I'm only the first person that people know because I got tested.
Yes.
I just have that certainty because I went through that whole process, because I begged people along the way, and because I eventually got tested and got the results. But I am by no means the only person that anybody knows.
Yeah, no, that's great. It's been something. Kaylee, thank you for spending time with us this morning. Thank you for sharing your story, and good luck in your recovery. We'll be in touch.
I appreciate you guys so much, and I hear the news. I read the paper about what's going on in Louisiana, and I'm thinking about you guys. I really am. I hope.
Thank you.
I hope this gets under control.
I'll try to keep your mom sane, knowing that she can't be out there with you. Thank you very much.
Please do. Thank you, guys.
All right, there's Kaylee Hartung checking in.